I'm Stila Webb.
And I'm Siobhan Ghosh.
I'm going to write my first fiction novel this year.
And I'm going to film it.
And we're going to release one video each week.
And if you keep up with Stila's word count, by the end of 2017, you'll have... Alright, 10%ers. After taking a week of vacation, we are back.
Super here right now.
We are back. Today we're going to talk about making things flow. Stila Webb, what is flow?
Flow is using your pacing and your mood to create a musical, rhythmic passage of text.
Flow is the difference between leaden sentences that just sit there and are hard to digest and having gulpable sentences that people can just chug.
Flow is like having a road that is well paved or having a really crappy road with lots of bumps in it.
Yeah. But most importantly, flow is musical. And you only learn about flow really when you read your work out loud. So today, an example of good flow, we're going to read...
something Siobhan wrote.
Slaughterhouse 5. Listen, Billy Pilgrim has come unstuck in time. Billy has gone to sleep a senile widower and awakened on his wedding day. He has walked through a door in 1955 and come out another one in 1941. He has gone back through that door to find himself in 1963. He has seen his birth and death many times, he says, and pays random visits to all the events in between. He says, Billy is spastic in time, has no control over where he's going next, and the trips aren't necessarily fun. He is in a constant state of stage fright, he says, because he never knows what part of his life he's going to have to act in next. Billy was born in 1922 in Ilium, New York, the only child of a barber there. He was a funny-looking child who became a funny-looking youth, tall and weak, and shaped like a bottle of Coca-Cola. He graduated from the Ilium High School in the upper third of his class and attended night sessions in the Ilium School of Optometry for one semester before being drafted in military service in World War II. His father died in a hunting accident during the war. So it goes. Billy saw service with the infantry in Europe and was taken prisoner by the Germans. After his honorable discharge from the army in 1945, Billy again enrolled in the Ilium School of Optometry. During his senior year there, he became engaged to the daughter of the founder and owner of the school, and then suffered a mild nervous collapse. He was treated in a veterans hospital near Lake Placid and was given shock treatments and released. He married his fiancée, finished his education, and was set up in business in Ilium by his father-in-law. Ilium is a particularly good city for optometrists because the General Forge and Foundry Company is there. Every employee is required to own a pair of safety glasses and to wear them in areas where manufacturing is going on. GF&F has 68,000 employees in Ilium. That calls for a lot of lenses and a lot of frames. Frames are where the money is. Do you notice how smoothly that flowed, how easily that went? I never wanted to read Kurt Vonnegut before, but the rhythm of each paragraph just kept me going all the way to the end of the book. Why do you think it flowed?
He does a couple of things cleverly. The first thing he does is he begins this chapter with a very interesting, intriguing premise that this guy is time traveling.
Unstuck in time, yeah.
Yeah, you want to know what's going on there, so you keep reading, and then he ends each of his paragraphs with a fun little booster pack. Something else interesting. So you're getting information.
Yeah, notice how all the fun jokes came at the ends, right? Like we talked about before, the end of where we started reading, frames where the money is, that whole paragraph was setting up that joke. The one where he engaged the daughter of the school and then suffered a mild nervous collapse, again, it's setting up that joke. But there's not just the end. Do you see the part in the beginning where he says, he says?
He has that as his own little paragraph for emphasis.
Right. We told you before, when you make something its own paragraph, it emphasizes, it puts a spotlight on it. So everything before that is kind of set up, and then that's the payoff. The rhythm of this, when I read it, it's like dun da dun da dun da dun dun da dun da dun da dun dun da dun da dun da dun. And every one of the downs are jokes. So dun set up joke. Set up joke.
Yep.
Is that how you felt about it too?
The other thing he does well is, and this is very much a pacing thing, is he does a couple of sentences, then has a short one, gives you a break, then a couple of sentences, and a short one. There are no wall of texts here.
Yeah.
He keeps it fairly short. So visually and for your brain, mentally, it's a good rhythm of stuff, little big, little big, little big, little.
Yeah. And he does it all the way through the entire book, so it's not by accident. He's on purpose going dun da dun da dun da dun dun da dun da dun da dun. And when I write, I especially watch the spacing on page, and he does that very perfectly. The spacing, fat paragraph, tiny. Fat paragraph, tiny.
He also does a good job with his words. The words flow naturally one to the other. There aren't any speed bumps or tricky things for your tongue to get around or odd sentences that don't make sense without reading it a second time.
Yeah. There's also, what I'm going to put on my second thing, the fun and the flow comes from specific details. He doesn't just say the person looks funny. He says he was shaped like a bottle of Coca-Cola, which made you chuckle. Right?
Exactly.
Little details. So, I read Slaughterhouse-Five now, but before I had read Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk.
Oh God.
You can draw a straight line between like the rhythm and the sensibilities of Slaughterhouse-Five and Fight Club. Now, we're talking about the book Fight Club here, starring Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, not the movie. Consider this from Fight Club. 2 screens into my demo to Microsoft, I taste blood and have to start swallowing. My boss doesn't know the material, but he won't let me run the demo with a black eye and half my face swollen from the stitches inside my cheek. The stitches have come loose and I can feel them with my tongue against the inside of my cheek.
Oh.
Picture a snarled fishing line on the beach. I can picture them as black stitches on a dog after it's been fixed. And
Oh, go ahead. I'm alright. I'm okay.
I can picture them as black stitches on a dog after it's been fixed, and they keep swallowing blood. My boss is making the presentation for my script, and I'm running the laptop projector, so I'm off on one side of the room, in the dark. More of my lips are sticky with blood as I try to lick the blood off.
Oh.
And when the lights come up, I'll turn to the consultants, Ellen and Walter and Robert and Linda from Microsoft, and say, "Thank you for coming. My mouth shining with blood and blood climbing the cracks between my teeth. You can swallow about a pint of blood before you're sick."
Oh.
You talked over the end line.
Go ahead.
Come on back up here.
No, I'm alright. I'll be down here where I won't pass out.
Stila, come on back up for the
This is gross.
camera. We're done. It's done. It's
I
over.
can't handle it. Oh.
Come on. So that's the flow of Fight Club.
So gross.
There you go.
Alright, never reading that book.
This is a different rhythm. It's not dun da dun da dun da dun. It's just more of a flow back and forth, like more of a it's kind of just a hum. So if you look visually on the page, it's not big, small. It doesn't do that. What he does is, you were talking about cutting out unnecessary words.
Yes.
He doesn't use words without a purpose. Like everything's very visceral. He doesn't say my mouth hurt. He says I could feel the stitches inside them like a dog, after it's been fixed. It's the point I wanted to make here is that flow comes from specifics. Take this with your hands. So why does this flow, Stila?
I really don't know. I was too busy being sick.
Because it's so visceral.
He doesn't, and we'll talk about this another time, we'll do a whole episode on filler and filter words, but he doesn't really use any of those. That's one of the reasons. There's not an excess of words to trip over. There aren't a lot of extra of, the, and that over filler words that don't really do anything.
Every word and phrase moves the story forward.
Yes,
Nothing's repeated. Yeah, nothing's repeated.
Things like, I dropped the gun on the floor. I hit him in the face. I picked the gun up off the floor. That does not flow because there's too much repetition of information the reader already knows.
Yeah.
You're putting extra junk in the way.
Yeah, you could say, I dropped the gun. I socked him in the jaw and picked the gun up off the floor. You just need it once.
You only need to tell him where the gun is once.
Yeah, so Chuck Palahniuk does that very, very well with visceral. He puts in specific... He considers filler words anything where the main character says, the main character remembered, he felt, he thought, any conjugation of to be, like was, is, he tries to pull those out. And we'll put a link to a blog post of his in the description. But yeah, anytime, instead of saying, Karen remembered that she had left the stove on and that Jeff liked her, like Chuck Palahniuk would totally cut that out. Anything remembered, thought. I'm repeating now. Now it's me repeating.
Yeah,
now we're all repeating. So those are some examples of it done right. What's an example of it done wrong?
So one of our viewers, Stacy, has been kind enough to not only send us a scene, but allow us to discuss it with you. So we're now going to...
Surgically repair it.
We're going to critique it and rewrite it a little bit.
Yeah, to show you specifically for flow. So, Stacy, I don't know if I'm saying that right, sent us this fight scene, and she said, authors have weird names.
Uh-huh.
And she said, okay, does this fight scene work? And our main reaction was it didn't flow. It had good details, but it didn't flow.
It did not.
So we emailed Stacy, and she said we could critique it if others would learn.
Thanks, Stassi. People will learn.
Don't say her name wrong.
I hate you so much right now.
So Stacy has about 2 or 3 pages of fight scene. What we're going to do is we're going to put the fight scene up on the screen, but we're not going to read it out loud because that would take forever. So people watching at home, when we put the text up, pause it, read Stacy's stuff, and then we're see how it sounds in your head, and then we're going to come back and make it better. Okay? Here we go. Here goes the text. So pause it now and read. Do you think they're reading?
I hope so.
I bet they're not reading.
Probably not.
They're probably not going to read this.
They're lost.
So that was the first part of Stacys Scene. So how can we make it smoother? Alright, so do you notice how it's kind of like half there and half not? Like she's got some good parts, but half of it still doesn't flow. It's a little bit rough.
There are little stumbles. There's some odd wording.
Yeah. So how did you fix that first part?
A strange odor crept over the parking lot. The stench of death and decay attacked my senses, and the hairs on the back of my neck rose. I spun around as a corpse-like, skeletal creature emerged from the darkness. It towered over me, grossly elongated limbs tipped with razor-sharp claws, sleek black horns growing from a skull-like head. Ashen skin stretched thin over bone and sinew, mottled with dried blood and dirt.
So each of her original descriptive sentences was like a good, tasty, succulent donut. Have you ever had donuts?
Yeah, I've had some donuts.
So the first donut is really, really good. The second donut is good, but not as good as the first. Third donut, and then by the fourth donut you're like, oh, too many donuts.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is take those donuts and stuff them in a blender so we can gulp it down like a milkshake.
That sounds abhorrent.
So how did we do that?
That sounds so gross.
You took the first paragraph here, and you broke it into 3 paragraphs.
Correct.
Okay. For flow.
For flow.
Did you do anything else?
I combined some sentences and some descriptors. Instead of writing a single description about the horns, I moved, and then about the limbs, and then about the skin, and then about the bone structure. I just combined them. I described the entire creature as a unit instead of starting piecemeal. Because when you first see something naturally, you're going to see it all at once.
First you see there's a creature, then you look at how tall it is, then you look at the horns and the claws, then you look at the skin, like you're getting smaller and smaller each time.
Correct.
So at the end of that, she originally had right after your part, the blood red eyes, she originally had it go like this. Yet it was his desiccated lips, pulled back to reveal barbed teeth, capable of slicing through my skin viciously, that incapacitated my thoughts. I stood, drowning in pure terror. A ravenous roar ripped up his chest and sat in his throat, contained by his raspy breath. Like pulling my body from quicksand, I struggled to comprehend the unique situation presented before me. It was a monster. A Wendigo. So that was Stacy's original.
Correct.
Wendigo is the power line here.
Yes.
And the thing I told Stacy is, you want to go slow, fast, faster power line. What she does, the fastest part here is, I stood, drowning in pure terror. That's like the, where the camera pulls in, the music plays,
Yeah, that should go towards the end.
That should go closer to Wendigo.
Correct.
So the yet is very important, because after all the description that you did, we have to say, yet it was this one feature that really scared me. So
Yeah.
you have to leave the yet in. So I changed the first sentence to, yet it was his desiccated lips, pulled back to reveal barbed teeth, capable of slicing through my skin viciously, that incapacitated my thoughts. Oh, let's take out the viciously. Any ly word weakens it. Boom, gone. I stood, drowning in pure terror. It was the monster from my nightmares, a Wendigo. So this is what I did. We pulled the body from quicksand part out, because that was the slowest part, the quicksand. And I put drowning in pure terror closer to Wendigo. So now it looks like this. just like you said, you know how when you get really stressed and the adrenaline's really running, people get tunnel vision? So that's what's happening here. Big, medium, small, tiny details. Like her vision is narrowing as her adrenaline starts pumping up. So Wendigo, power line.
I noticed you also pulled some of the more awkward words out of it. In the original, she had something about, I turned around to observe. Observe in a highly emotional situation is the wrong verb.
Yeah.
You're not observing, you're staring, you're gaping, you're freaking out.
Yeah.
Observe is way too clinical for this particular scene. And there were a couple of other little words like that that didn't quite work because your brain just isn't functioning that way when you see something terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great book out there called The Miracle of Language. It's called The Miracle of Language. And if you ever want to do what Still is talking about, English comes from Old Norse, German, essentially, mixed with French, mixed with Latin. That's how we got English. Latin words are the scientific detached words. Observe is a Latin word. It's very detached, scientific. You know, gaped is not. Gaped is probably a German word.
Probably.
So, German words are visceral. They're the words of the earth, right? You use them in terror situations. French root words are flowery. You use them in descriptive. And then Latin root words you use in science. So observe.
In thoughtful moments.
Yeah. So observe is a Latin root word, I think. So that's why it's the wrong word. It's very clinical and detached.
Always pay attention to the connotation the words have before you use them. There's one like that you did in yours too, where you took it out. Yeah, the thing about comprehend the unique situation.
Well,
that's a horrible, horrible phrase for that situation.
That's a lot of Latin words. Comprehend might be French, but unique, unique you, maybe it's, but wrong words. They're
comprehend the unique situation I was currently finding myself in.
Yeah.
That's very 1800s, and that does not fly these days. Cause
well, let's not shit on Stacey too much.
No, I'm just saying. So I noticed that. I mean, we do leave some, like, desiccated, but that's because they're very...
Desiccated. It just...
Yeah, they have that nice sound to them. Yeah. That rhythm of death and decay and
Yeah, so we left desiccated, but quicksand is literally slow. I don't want to be slow, I want to be fast. Comprehend is the wrong word there. Unique situation presented before me is just a slow phrase. You want to go fast there.
If you want to use a comprehend thing there, what you'd want to do is wrap my mind around it. Or struggled to understand what I saw. But even then, you pretty much don't need it at that point with the other words.
You would say I struggled to make sense, or I struggled to understand what I saw. I struggled to make sense of what I saw, yeah.
But otherwise, the fuck? That's a great way of putting it in there.
So Kurt Vonnegut goes for one type of rhythm in his book. Chuck Palahniuk goes for a different type of rhythm. And for Stacey's, it's a third type of rhythm because it's a fight scene. So Stacey, hopefully that helped make things a little smoother. There's still a little bit of stubble left, but if you need some help with that, give us another email. So that's our homework, is read your chapters out loud, and that's the only way to see where things flow and stick, and then you can smooth down the edges from there.
Anytime you stumble, take a look at it and start changing things around so that it moves smoothly from one sentence and one thought to another.
Yeah. And read some Kurt Vonnegut Jr. or Chuck Palahniuk if you get stuck. Programming note, we're getting close to the end of the year. By the end of November, you need to have your edited drafts done, because in December we're going to talk about covers and publishing and other issues, and you won't have as much time to edit. So take NaNoWriMo time and edit, because by December we're going into publishing. Plan now for your future.
Yeah. If you have questions on the flow of your work, email it to us. hey@getwriting.wang.
.wang. Peapots piss in their peeper's pouch. Peapots piss in their peeper's pouch. It's a thing stage musicians say. Peapots piss in their peeper's pouch.
How much wood would woodchuck chuck? Woodchuck could chuck wood. He would chuck a little wood, the woodchuck could if woodchuck could chuck wood.